to you about our fun and failures
on our journey from being scared to doing it anyway.
And today we have a very exciting guest for you. We're really excited for you to listen to what she has to say.
We have Philippa Davis, who is an international private chef, food writer, TV presenter.
She's got it all going on.
All sorts.
And we have such a brilliant chat covering all sorts of subjects. So buckle up, listen up, and we'll see you on the other side.
We are here today with the wonderful Philippa Davis, who is an international private chef of intrigue, food writer, TV presenter. So, hello.
Hello.
It's really lovely to have you with us here.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
You are the first podcast guest to bring us food,
Yes.
which is very exciting. I'm excited.
Well, let
about
me
it.
just tell you. So
Tell us.
this morning, as the birds were waking up in the morning, I popped into the garden and picked these little pink bits of forced rhubarb. So forced rhubarb, I don't know if you know or not, but it's where you put a bucket, basically, you grow the rhubarb in the dark and they grow up very tall, thin and bright pink, hence that beautiful colour.
Wow.
So forced rhubarb, and it's got almonds and pistachios and local butter, local eggs.
Lovely.
So there we
Thank
go.
you. So,
Tap in whenever you want.
absolutely.
Yeah, never mind the podcast. Let's
yeah.
just have breakfast.
Just have breakfast.
Yeah.
And this is that is a high bar to set to other guests.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. They've got to be up at 6 picking their
Yeah,
own rhubarb.
That is like an ideal.
Not that I'm competitive or anything, but you know.
I think you've already won.
Jolly good.
No, but we're really excited to have you here. Obviously, well, it's not obvious at all to people who aren't from here, but we know you from being local to Shaftesbury and from seeing you out and about. But obviously, you are also out there on Amazon. You were published with your Deepest series book.
Deepest books, yeah. So I grew up here in
Yeah.
Shaftesbury, so we moved here, the whole family, pretty much from when I was about 4 years old. And it was very much the kind of the good life idea. So my parents moved, my grandparents moved, my aunt and uncle moved. And we bought this house that was absolute ramshackle, like there was no floors, no electrics, no water.
Okay.
So for the first kind of we were in the barns by the side, bathing in tin baths, and but my parents, my grandparents, they really wanted things like goats and sheep and stuff. So we started kind of filling the field with animals, growing all our own vegetables. So it was very much a kind of a foodie family.
Wow.
But kind of one of the reasons I kind of got into food so much was I'm dyslexic, and I was struggling at school with the kind of the conventional teaching systems, which is fine because it just means that you have to look at things a different way. So my parents and my grandparents thought, well, let's whip her out of school and we'll home educate her. So I got to spend years helping out. I mean, obviously you have to do your homework and, some government inspector comes around and makes sure you're doing the basics. But once I'd done the basics, I could hop off out of the classroom as such and into the field, into the vegetable garden, helping my grandfather in particular, grow all the fruit and veg. And it just kind of inspired and kind of sparked this very early joy in food, but also feeding people, because we were one of those families that the most important thing that we could do was to sit down and eat together. So no matter how busy my parents were running the farm, running the furniture business, we would all sit down and we would have at least one big meal a day together.
Lovely.
That's so cool.
It sounds wonderful.
Yeah, no, it was really special. And I think, like so many things, maybe we don't appreciate it when we're young, but now I refer to it so much and feel as my work as an international private chef, as you say, like getting to go into people's homes and be part of that for other people is this extraordinarily precious experience where you're helping feed the children, bring people together, bring the adults together, their friends, their parents, just to be part of that. Like it's a really, sensitive role to have.
Yeah.
But something that, because I think I had that kind of very lucky to have that grounding of a family who ate together and saw how precious food was, and just whether it's about, and we obviously ate fairly simply because we were eating off the land. So whether it was like a stewed bit of lamb leg, or we had these beautiful every spring, the lambs would be born and be bouncing around the field, and you're like, oh, this is the cutest thing ever. And then you'd come in underneath the kitchen and like there'd be sacks of meat everywhere. And you're like, oh, it'll be that time of year then. But of course then the food is very precious, like what's got into it, that you've looked after this lamb or the sheep, and you kind of have this different respect and connection.
Yeah. Because lots of young people don't have that at all. Well, I mean, I mean, I was brought up by vegetarians, so I definitely didn't have that. But like that kind of connection with this comes from that, it doesn't just arrive, is really important, isn't it? And I suppose
understanding, I think, how your food grows, because we do kind of have this issue in the UK right moment, like how much do we cherish farmers, how much do we cherish nutrition, where our food comes from. And, you know, moments happen like COVID, where suddenly, you know, it was very difficult getting food into the country and the shelves started becoming empty, and you're like, oh my gosh, food security, you know, that word suddenly starts popping up for the first time, certainly in our generation. You're like, oh yeah, where does all our food come from? You know, how is it produced? Who is producing it?
it's nuts.
What? Oh, dramatic pause. I mean, I could just fill it with, you know. So let me tell you more about my childhood.
Well, I want to hear more about just like the international chefing side of things. How did you get into that? Have you got any like fun stories from that?
Plenty of fun stories. So, I mean, I worked in restaurants for about 10 years, 3 of which I ran my own restaurant up in London at Mudgee on the City Farm. But I very much hit a ceiling. I mean, I'd say it was kind of burnout, basically, you know, rather than... And cooking is the only thing I've ever been absolutely certain of in my life. I knew I loved to cook. I knew I had to cook. And I've never felt like that about really anything else. So it's like the big certainty of what I really love and want to do. And I'd got to this stage when I was working in this Mudgee, this restaurant in London, which I love, great people around, but I just, you know, rather than feeling joyous when these boxes of vegetables would come to the kitchen, my heart would start pounding like, oh my God, can I just not just like close the door and stop? And, you know, I wasn't enjoying so much just everything about, you know, lots of people to manage, and it just felt relentless. And then you start sleeping badly, and you start just, you know, not looking after yourself properly. So I knew I had to break that relationship because it just, you know, the restaurant world just was no longer serving, you know, my passions and my love. And one of my waitresses was like, why don't you try a bit of just private chefing for a few months while you sort out, you know, your next big serious restaurant move? I was like, oh yeah, okay, maybe I'll do that. Like having no idea really what private chefing meant. Because, you know, when you look up private chefing online, there's very little about it really. I mean, you kind of get these few cool stories of like, oh, I was a private chef to a movie star in LA and he woke me up at 3 a.m. and carried me across the town so I could bake him cookies because he was hungry. Like, oh, really? Or, and then this other one that I read before I decided I'd become a private chef, not that this inspired me to become a private chef, it's like, we spent the evening watching our client cavort with his new lady friend on the patio while we were trying to set up for a party.
Oh,
you're like, oh, really?
Like
and I was like,
stuff.
a little bit, and you're just like, oh, that's such rubbish, you know. Anyway, so I start working, and it turns out I must have been incredibly naive because all this crazy stuff kind of happened.
Wow, really?
But anyway, so I threw myself into private chefing thinking it would only just be for a couple of months, and suddenly I was in this, like, so pretty much my very first day of private chefing, I arrive at the client's house and we're chatting away, and she's like, by the way, we're going to Ibiza. It's like, fine, but why didn't you tell me the job was in Ibiza? Like, I thought it was in the UK. And like, it's kind of quite a big deal, but like, did you not trust me? Or is it like, is this how rich people live? They're just like, oh, we're off to Ibiza, let's go, this will be fun. Like, oh, okay. And then she's like, yeah,
Is that how rich people live?
I mean, yes.
Amazing, can't wait.
I mean, it's kind of amazing. Like, you know, because I mean, I guess like a chaotic day in my childhood would be like, oh, the goats have escaped. Oh, we're going to Gillingham. I'm like, yes. My client's like, we're going to Tuscany. It's like, okay, pack my bags. But you know, so I'm talking to my new client, and like, I'm so nervous because I'm in this huge, amazing house that is just immaculate, and it just smells expensive, and everything is kind of perfect, and I just feel like this really rustic girl from Dorset just who doesn't belong. And then we're chatting, and then first of all as well, like, so they kind of send me up to my room, and I'm thinking, oh God, I'm going to go in some attic room, and it's going to be like, you know, some Victorian wench. And I open the door, the housekeeper opens the door, and it's like the bloody Savoy. It's like, oh, how nice, you know, they obviously treated me well. Big fat duvet, heated bathroom in springtime. I'm like, oh my God, the luxury.
Sold.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
I like this lifestyle. And then I get downstairs and we're chatting away, and she's like, oh, we're going to Ibiza, so we're going to need some meat. And she starts reeling off this kind of list of meat I need to go to the butcher's to buy. And I'm like, well, how are we going to take the meat to Ibiza? And she's like, well, I've got a private jet. I'm like, oh. As if, like, she said, well, we've got a front door. I think I almost spat my tea out. It's like, oh my God, I'm going on a private jet. And then, but this is the worst bit of the story. So this is like, because it was just such a kind of roller coaster of emotions my first few years really, but this was my kind of one of my first gigs. And then she kind of looks at my hands, and like when I was at Mud Shoot, we had an allotment, we had a smokehouse, we had a wood oven. My hands were in the sink half the time. I mean, they were wrecked. There was no hand modelling jobs ever coming my way.
No,
And she's like, oh, what have you been doing to your hands? Have you been busy? I'm like, oh, quite busy. Just thinking about it. She said, I'll tell you what, I'll send you to my beautician. So my very first day as a private chef, it is like Eliza Doolittle. She sends me, less singing obviously, sadly, but she sends me to her beauticians to get kind of like tarted up, or smartened up basically.
Yeah. It would make a good musical.
It would.
I think we could collaborate with you on this. We'll shelve that for later.
But it didn't help with the nerves, because I just felt as if I was really, and although she handled it really well, and like she was very billionaire, like very non-snobby and like charming, but even so I just felt so out of my depth, and just thinking, obviously as a chef, like you're so used to, you get suited up in your whites, you go into your kitchen, you have your prep list and you have your menu all written out. I didn't know what like the next few weeks were going to hold, what she really needed of me, what food, they weren't, the joy of having a private chef come into your home is like, you don't have to say, we're going to eat this on Monday, this on Tuesday, this on Wednesday, but also you could suddenly say on Tuesday, oh, can we have a 3-course dinner for 10 people who are coming round, and you're like, oh, okay. So I was kind of like in this very kind of unknown territory of like what was really going to be expected of me.
And you don't normally have to turn up with a manicure.
No, you don't normally have to. But of course, the difference between being a restaurant chef and a private chef is suddenly you're in people's homes, and it's very intimate. And I wasn't suddenly sure at that point whether I wanted that intimacy with the people I was feeding, and the intensity of it as well. Because as you're chopping away, someone can be in your space, or lots of Sunday people will be in your space, and the kids will be there, and the nannies and the parents, and you're just suddenly like there is no off switch. So if you're traveling with someone as well, like some of my jobs I do, I could be away for a month, and suddenly you're living with someone you don't know for a month. And I mean, particularly at the beginning as well, and I think this happens a lot if you feel an imposter, is that you try and overachieve, you try and give more, and you run twice as fast as you actually need to because you want to prove you can do it. So it was exhausting, like emotionally and physically.
Because it's performative.
It is so. I mean, my sister Helen Watts, as you know, she trained as an actress. She writes, she directs, and I mean, and so she spent a lot of time at the Shaftesbury Arts Centre growing up, but so did I. Like, we were pretty much on that stage, or I was behind it for years. And I do have that performative bug. And I was sitting at a dinner recently with a judge, and he said, yes, well, I do think private chefs and judges and lawyers, basically, we're all basically want to be actors, really. Because it's such a performative skill.
Yes. Well, anything that you work with people, because obviously I was hairdressing, and that I found that you had to be very performative in front of house. For we've both done lots of front of house things. You have to be so like on your game, because it's part of someone's experience and their expectation on you. You have to kind of put this role on, which is great sometimes, because I found sometimes if I was like cacking myself, you can put this act on and be this person. But sometimes it's exhausting. It is exhausting. And I think now, like, having been a private chef for 15 years, I've travelled all over the world, so from Singapore, Israel, all over Europe, out to the Caribbean, and I've been kept throwing myself into these. I think secretly I probably like being scared. I like that adrenaline, I like being kind of that pressure. But it's about understanding how to use that pressure. So what I would say is, like, a lot of my clients, obviously to have a private chef, you're going to be financially successful. So you, over particularly again the first 2 years, really kind of, I guess, slightly studying my clients, going, what is it about you that's made you get to where you are? And of course, some of them, it's inherited wealth, like Lord and Lady so-and-so, or the Duke of so-and-so, But then I've got a lot of clients who are hugely successful in finance, fashion, film, anything beginning with F really I go for. Foragers.
And it's hugely successful foragers, or hedge fund managers.
Yes.
So kind of, But they, I was thinking, so what is it about their personality and their skill set that have got them to where they are? And you can just see them, because you're kind of seeing them at work, because they might have meetings and stuff, or businessy people around, but also you're seeing them in their downtime. And these people, like, they are so tenacious and full of energy and just disciplined, and you know, they generally are continually working their socks off. But I think it's that ability to like continually push boundaries and pick yourself up when something doesn't go your way. Like, you can't crumble. You have to like regroup and get on with it, and you just keep going. I mean, one of my clients, she's hugely successful in the kind of Asia in finance, and her big thing is about staying in the game. And she's great because I've known her now for about 10 years, and you know, we often have our kind of heart to hearts. Like, we're both quite fast talkers, so we would have these big kind of like powwows every summer over like 5 espressos in the morning. I mean, it's not healthy.
You get faster with the talking as well,
unfortunately, yes, but we both seem to understand each other. But you know, her big thing has always been it's about staying in the race. So like when I've been trying to do, say, writing projects, so writing's quite hard to get the gigs in writing. So now I write for BBC Food. I've got a monthly column in the Field magazine, which very much champions British seasonal produce and a lot of game like venison. But you know, to get those gigs, like, you have to keep putting yourself out there, and it's not even like you'll hear no, you might just hear nothing. And so I'm guessing it's the same with like auditioning sometimes.
It's more that you get ghosted.
Yeah.
Then you get a rejection. It's more you just have the silence.
Yeah.
And then you just don't know.
You don't know.
You just, at least if you get a no, then you think, oh, well,
Is it because
you
you've
know.
looked at us and thought, nope? Is it because we've just pitched it wrong? Or is it
you just too busy and not seen it?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and that is really hard though, because you do need like a lot of guts, I think, and you don't actually have to have the self-belief, I don't believe. You just have to have the ability to keep putting yourself back in, because we all doubt. And like, you know, even I'd say like the successful billionaires, you see them in their quiet moment, and of course they're thinking things through and thinking, oh God, is this going to work or not? And they have, you know, they will still have those, I won't say panicky moments, but they're kind of panicking. You know, will this deal go through or not? So it happens to all of us. But what is different about, I think, the people who kind of get there eventually is that they stay in the game, they keep going.
Yeah. I was thinking about, while you were talking about that, then just keep staying brave, staying out of your comfort zone, like keep staying in the race. But what you seem to have a really true sense of is what you said earlier, of your core value is your love of food and your love of kind of the cooking and providing that with and around for people. I think it's really interesting, the link. So maybe it's about finding, like, sticking to your core thing and then winging it around that, because as long as that's at the core, other things will shift, won't they? So like, it shifted from restaurant to then, but you're at the core of it.
I lost it for a bit. I think at the end of restauranting and in the beginning of private chefing, it took me about 3 years to re-find myself properly in terms of, and I'm sorry if that sounds pretentious, but to me it's like, it is so important to me. It is very much, I feel, part of my identity and what makes me really happy, and therefore probably what's going to make people around me happy because I'm happy, you know. But was that love, and what the difference, the private chefing wasn't just about the food, it was about bringing people around a table. And of course, yes, it could be some fancy meal, but it really also could be tea and toast at, you know, end of school day, or, you know, I don't know, a simple salad for lunchtime, but bringing people together and just seeing them stop for a moment and chat and smell the roses as such. But it's about how do you refine yourself when you lose yourself? And for me, I think I guess there was like a small flame, remembering like what I loved and food and preparing food, that kind of kept me going. But it was all the other kind of challenges and breaking out of my comfort zone, keep throwing myself into, you know, because when you're working for basically the 1% of the world's most successful people, like, you know, I don't think you can be seen as this kind of, I have no idea what I'm doing, you know, but thank you for letting me into your home and giving me the keys to your car and your bank card. You know, but just so you know, I'm freaking out because I've never done this before, you know? And so you spend a lot of time, and actually this is something, and they do talk about fake it to make it, but I don't know if it's quite that, but it's just like, most people go through this, like not everyone, you're not born with knowing how to do something.
No.
And yes, there is some training, but nothing gets on like, you know, a bit of practical experience. but it's about like working through it, and some of it as well. And again, when I'm talking to some of my clients, like in the fashion industry, and they're talking about recruitment, and it's not always about having those, oh, we need to have this degree and we need to make sure they've had, you know, I don't know, this certificate. It's about what is their attitude?
Yeah.
What kind of experience they're willing to, maybe they've either done or willing to participate in to get where we need to go as a group. A lot of it, and I think people should remember this, is they shouldn't worry too much about their actual like CV as such. It's like, you know, bring your A game, bring your good attitude, bring your openness to fit in and help someone, and actually you can go super far.
Yeah. We were talking the other day on our Sunday special about winging it. And actually, and again, going back into the sort of imposter syndrome thing that I think we do all have at some point, and we do all stand there winging something. But it's believing that you've got that little bit of knowledge already, and just finding the confidence then to grow it, isn't it? And then keep going with it, because it's very easy to step back away from something as well.
Yeah.
And stay
No.
safe.
I mean, I think maybe it was a good thing that I'd already like taken a flight somewhere and hired a car, was locked in someone's home.
Yeah.
I'd be like, can I get off now, please?
I'm stuck here, I may as well cook.
I might as well. I might as well have a go at this. But the thing is, you see, it's not just about the cooking, because suddenly with private chefing, you are part of their lives. So you might be doing kind of other things, or serving people that you wouldn't normally used to be served, because you actually do quite a lot of front of house, or can do quite a lot of front of house interaction as well. Although there might be staff, you often have this kind of much more interactive relationship with who you're feeding than if you're a restaurant chef and you're kind of safely behind the pass and you can swear away and, you know, have unmanicured hands. Whereas suddenly it turns out as a private chef, you were much more client involved in all of it. And then, like I said, like knowing how, you know, when you suddenly meet your first duke or whatever, I mean, it sounds like a series at Bridgerton, but it's like, do I curtsy? Do I milord?
What do you do?
I mean, you put your best Cockney accent, I don't know why. Doff your cap and give a cheeky grin. My lordship.
We haven't met any dukes yet.
I don't think so.
No, it's on the to-do list.
That's plenty out there. Plenty of dukes in the sea out there.
And so with the private chefing, with very little experience in this, do people give you a menu or an idea or their likes, or do you just say, this is what you're eating, sit down and eat it, you can't leave the table until you're finished, this is all I do?
Well, this is the thing as well, I didn't know, because when I was trying to work out what does a private chef do, I was like, well, how's this going to work? Like, what meals do they want? Do I just hide in the house until they want something to eat and then suddenly pop out of the cupboard and produce eggs or whatever? Every client is so different, and you've got to so quickly tune into what do these people need from me and want from me, and how does their household run. So some people will, for instance, have staff meetings once a week. There'll be charts of guests coming, which rooms they're going to be in, any allergies, any intolerances, any things they particularly like, so I should include on the menu. And others will wake up and literally go, we forgot to tell you the Prime Minister's coming for dinner and we need a 5-course dinner for 12 people. And as a chef, you just go, oh, no problem. So that actually did happen to me once. And the worst thing is that it was a kind of fairly shortish job, for a couple of weeks, and basically nothing had happened in the first 2 weeks. I was in Paris at the time. And I was like, my last night in Paris, I'm going to go out.
Oh, no.
Oh my God. I was so wrecked the next day. And then I get this thrown on mine. And I just had disaster after disaster with the dessert. Like, first time I was making these choux pastries. First time the choux pastries didn't work at all. And that's probably just technically because I added the eggs too early and the roux was too hot. Just in case you ever want to have anyone listening has choux dilemmas, that could be a reason why your choux buns don't rise. The second time, and I kind of feel this is kind of karmic punishment, but this pane of glass, the window, slammed shut, shattered over my profiteroles that did work.
Oh no.
No, wait. And then, the third time, I bake another good batch. I'm like, yes, I'm going to go up in the shower because, you know, after you're a little bit, after last night, you just sometimes need a little freshen up. I go upstairs, get changed, come back. The effing dog had pulled them off the table and were eating my profiteroles. And And then I took a big deep breath. Because the other thing, of course, is because like this high person was coming, there were security guards everywhere with guns, and it's like I cannot cry over my profiteroles and a dog with a man with a gun who keeps wandering in and out of my kitchen.
No.
So yeah, I took a big deep breath, and I remade the flour and the eggs, and off I went again. And finally, I triumphed.
Oh.
So perseverance is the key.
Yes.
Wow.
With
Perseverance
cookies.
is,
I'm quite stressed by the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of amusing in the end. Like now, years on, it's funny. At the time, it was just, yeah.
Will you private chef for us? I'm gonna try.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do please.
So, how then did you get into? So you're part of the deepest books series, which is all about kind of diving right into different counties. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah.
How did you get into that? Because obviously that's a big. Well, it's not a big leap, is it? But it's like a complete swerve, but still the same.
Yeah. I mean, when I think as well, you know what I was saying about my clients and kind of looking at their personalities and their traits and what makes them tick and maybe successful. One of the things like I noticed, like they're always busy, so that you will very rarely see them on a sun lounger. They are kind of doing some sort of activity or wine tasting or teaching their kids Mandarin or there is just like this.
Same.
Listen, we don't stand a chance unless of course we like drill at it like these people are doing it.
Yeah.
But so I was like, I'm doing lots of traveling, I'm on trains, I'm on planes. What can I do to utilise this time? Because I can't just sit there. I'm wound up there, and you kind of get into the speed of these people's lives. Like it is relentless. I mean, they are like, they must be born with an extra set of batteries or something. Like, why won't these people slow down? So I started writing because obviously that's something that you can pick up, put down, do on trains and planes. And like everyone back in the day, 15, 20 years ago, I'll start a food blog with 5 million other people in my area. But although the food blog itself, mostly it was just kind of for clients and things to kind of keep them updated of where I was and what I was doing, it did actually really satisfy this other creative. I've always loved writing, so it actually kind of really satisfied that side of my kind of creative thinking. And then, of course, you think, well, how can I monetize this as one should do? It can't all be laughs and giggles.
Yes. That's where we're going wrong.
Well, it's only, I guess it's just a hobby, isn't it? Until you make money out of it and then it's a business. So I started pitching to magazines and to newspapers and heard absolutely nothing. For like probably 2 years. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of, hi, this is me. I've got this great idea. I'm really unique. But of course, tumbleweed, which can be really demoralising. Yeah. But staying in the race, keep going. Eventually, I got some traction, and I'd cooked for a lot of estates by that time. So when I say estates, like, up in Scotland and Yorkshire and West Country as well, actually. But, shooting, so pheasants, partridges, fishing weeks, also deer stalking. And so I was really getting into game, just thinking it's this incredible food source that we have here in the UK that really, like, you kind of very much, when people talk about game, I think they often see very quickly this kind of tweed wearing chap with a little pot belly maybe and 5 spaniels or a Labrador. But actually, like, it's the most nutrient dense, like, venison is more nutrient dense than beef. Lower fat, it's the most sustainable meat we can eat right here in the UK. So huge fan of venison. Pheasant's the same, like pheasant is far more nutrient dense than chicken, and I'd rather be a pheasant, to be honest, than most chickens in the UK. Like, you have a lovely life outside until that's it. Oh, hello.
How does it do that? I'm sorry. It won't come up on this.
That's fine. So I pitched into the Field magazine, and I think I'd done maybe something locally for Dorset magazine by then. But the Field magazine is this monthly, it's the oldest country sports magazine in the UK. And they were looking for a new food writer. I pitched in at the right time, and sometimes it's just timing, which is why you have to stay in the game. And I got the job as a food writer, and I've been 10 years now doing this. And because, I'm generally this huge kind of advocate for British seasonal food, for me it's like one of my perfect writing jobs. And we've got a fantastic editor now, female editor, Ali Henton, who's been kind of steering the ship for the last couple of years. But it's quite, this magazine's been going 175 years, and only 2 female editors. One, I think, fairly briefly, and now Ali. So that's kind of great to be part of this kind of female team who, it's funny being a writer because you don't actually often see the people who you're working with. But, when we do get together, it's just really nice to have that kind of support and interest. But I did divert there because that wasn't your question at all.
That's okay, that's very interesting.
So I've been writing for the Field magazine, and then there are these 2, probably my 2 favourite people in the world. So Fanny Charles and Gay Perrier, they're West Country journalists and have been here for a long time, I would say 40 plus years, being journalists in the area. And they've known me since I was about 4. So my mum is so good, she's kind of clippings over the years of any kind of reviews we've had at the Shaftesbury Arts Centre when my sister and I were in plays.
Because everyone wants them to think good things about them in the review.
Of course.
We've all been reviewed by them.
So we found some clippings of when they kind of reviewed plays that Helen and I were in back in the day. So I've known them for a long time, and they as well, they are massive champions of supporting local communities and understanding, because you can throw that term around quite loosely, but when you live somewhere like Shaftesbury, you do really understand what that means, because, during COVID, for instance, all these amazing support groups were set up very quickly to make sure the drugs got delivered. I mean, by that I mean the prescription drugs.
That we know of.
Not the recreational drugs. And food banks were set up, and just making sure that no one was kind of left behind. And that's what really community is. And you can see with, the events that we get to hold in Shaftesbury, the kind of from the arts, from the food side, there is a lot of local support and people kind of connecting together. So the Deepest Book series was their idea, and we started with Dorset, and Dorset sold out really quickly, but it's funded by the Rothermere Foundation, so that's kind of Lord and Lady Rothermere who own the Daily Mail, and they're fairly local, but they have a charity where they like to help kind of local communities. So what we do is we create these books looking at the arts, the culture, the people, the history, and then I do the food section. So I'll go around the county and I'll look at who is producing right now. It's not necessarily old-fashioned recipes, it's who are our farmers, who are our food producers, who are our drink producers, look at all those ingredients and then create these new recipes using all that. So I get to talk a little bit about the producers in my recipe, and also what I thought would be really fun just to take it that next level is that when we photographed all this, we used local potters, local glass makers, woodworkers, so everything really was this big celebration of the local area. So we've done Dorset, we did Wiltshire, and we've done Somerset as well. But it's one of my favourite projects because it really is about celebrating roots of the unique community.
Yeah.
And actually, what was a big win for us is that on our last book, with Deepest Somerset, King Charles wrote the foreword because he is very much kind of a huge kind of campaigner and again advocate for understanding that it's so important to connect with the land that feeds you. So understanding what's around you, who, how, where your food is being produced.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it was a real honour to be part of that project.
Yeah. And where can you buy them?
So our lovely kitchen table in Shaftesbury High Street. I mean, we are so lucky in Shaftesbury. I think that's probably our crown, our jewel in our crown.
Yeah.
Anyone who hasn't been there should definitely go and check out, because she's got this incredible, Sarah who runs it, incredible eye, I think, for kind of curating this beautiful treasure trove when you go in there. So lots of cookery books, but also the items of cloths and kitchen utensils, the spices. She's just started stocking Sea Sisters, which is a Dorset-based tinned fish company, which we don't actually, there's very few places, and they may actually be the only one who do, or maybe 2 tinned fish in the UK. And of course it's this amazing way of preserving fish. We've got great fish around the coastline that we don't tend to eat enough. So it's quite that's a kind of exciting thing. Well, if you're me, I'm really excited by it. Tinned fish, woo!
Stumbled across that in Semley actually. I think they've got it, and that was the first time I saw it. It's quite amazing.
It is amazing, and it's beautifully designed as well. So so the Deepest books can be bought there, and also online, the Deepest, they have a site. But go and see Sarah at the kitchen table. Get your copies before they're gone.
And you're also, you've got a series on Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, that was a whirlwind of excitement.
That's dead proper, isn't it?
That's very proper. I mean, what was funny about that, well, not funny at all actually, but COVID kind of got in the way. So it was meant to happen, it got kicked down the line, thinking, oh, that's never going to happen, because I spoke to this production company, or they were looking for projects, so I pitched them this idea of like, what about Dorset? I mean, we're pretty cool down here. So I pitched him like, I wanted to send him some ideas of like the variety that we have here. So I was like, we have this guy with a ancient apple orchard. This is Liberty Fields, so a bit further south in Dorset. And rather than producing cider like most, which is lovely, we love cider obviously being West Country girls, but he produces this range of products like vodka, he's doing a rum, he does this apple balsamic vinegar. So it's created in the same way balsamic is created, i.e. there's a Solera system, so you have barrels stacked on top of each other, so rows of barrels, and over the years you put the barrel juice into, so he boils up the apple juice and then ages it and then keeps mixing it. Eventually after kind of 7 years you get the finished apple balsamic vinegar, which is why you get this intense fruit, sweet, tart, really interesting flavour. So he does this apple balsamic vinegar. We've got oyster farmers, we've got 5th generation millers, that's just down the road in Shaftesbury, Can Mills. I mean, we've got just the most extraordinary variety and then quality. So I pitched him, this production company, all these ideas, and he's like, oh yeah, sounds great, let's do it. And then COVID hits, like, well, let's not do it. And then eventually we kind of got the show on the road, but it was intense filming, and we did like 20 locations in 4 days, which is ridiculous, but that's, you just get on and do it. And yeah, so it's called A Taste of Dorset, and it's on Amazon Prime Video. And looking at it now, I'm so proud of all these people who we have in our community who are producing the most incredible food and looking after land. I mean, one of the people we went to visit was Gold Hill Organics, so super close to here. And what is so interesting, I think, about their business is that not only are they growing this kind of nutritious food for us to eat, but they are really looking after the soil, and soil health will become, like, it's hard to have a kind of sexy conversation about soil health, but it is literally the most, quickly, soil health.
Soil. So dirty.
It's just, woo, I'm getting hot. No, it's the most important thing we can talk about, because unless, of course, we can keep producing food and more naturally than just spraying chemicals on the land, we're going to not be able to produce anything. So people at Gold Hill Organics, they're thinking, okay, so we're going to grow the food, but we're going to keep kind of reinvesting our energy and time into the soil health so it can keep doing this. So if you look around like their margins, so around the outside of their vegetable plots, they've got wild hedgerows, they've got bits for the birds and the beasties, and they're just thinking about the whole cycle, and not just about the product, but about the whole picture. Yeah. So yeah, very proud of being able to champion that.
Yeah, you're almost like curating, like all the kind of, it's like putting together an exhibition, isn't it? If you're presenting all these like amazing people that don't really get talked about, because it's not a natural thing you would shout about. No one really like.
And it's just their job. It's just their passion, their lifestyle, and they're just sort of getting on with it. And so for them to be recognised as well, and for us to have knowledge is really
that this is on our doorstep. I mean, that's what's kind of so exciting for me. These people are on our doorstep and then can feed us. I mean, I think they don't, we were talking about social media earlier, and like, oh, we're not on TikTok yet, or what? I mean, you might be in a week's time, who knows?
Well, we're on it. We just don't do anything.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's better than me then.
Maybe we will by this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Check us out on TikTok.
We keep saying we're going to up our TikTok game, and then we don't.
But these people generally don't have time to do it. So I think when you see like the farmers' marches that have been recently done about the inheritance tax, it is such a big deal for them, because they've had to leave their farms, travel all the way to London in a piece of their big equipment, their machinery, their tractors, because it means that much to them. But like, it's not a job that you can just put down. You don't just shut up a computer. No. Their farms are 365 days a year, can be 24 hours. So I think go to the Amazon Prime series to be able to give them a connection with the community, other people. Like that's it's a huge privilege.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Huge privilege.
These are amazing, by the way.
Okay, glad you like those.
I am. I'm trying not to just go. I'm trying to eat politely.
They're very delicate.
TV
very
eating.
Delicate. Yeah. What was the first bit of TV I did was a Channel 4 show called Beat the Chef, and it was Andy Oliver was hosting it, and it was a competition, and I was kind of like the head food judgy person, and they so you all and it was big kind of budget set, so you kind of march into the set. And then they're presenting you with 2 plates of food, and it's a professional chef versus an amateur chef, and you have to just say which one you prefer. And you don't know who's produced what. But anyway, I think we were all kind of like newbies, kind of newbie judges in TV. And so you take a big mouthful of food and you're like, suddenly, like, you can't eat on TV. And then you're suddenly so conscious of how long it's taking you to chew. Obviously, you can edit it out later, but it does make you think about when you're eating on TV or watching eat. Like, it's like little tiny mouthfuls.
Yeah, like the presenters was tasting like on This Morning and stuff there.
Yeah. I'm full. Yeah.
You did something, I saw it on your socials, you did the Lidl versus M&S on, which programme was that?
So it's Channel 5, and it was, M&S versus Aldi at Easter.
Who does Easter better?
Yes.
Was it? Yeah. I didn't see it, so who did?
Wow!
I know actually you don't want to give the end away.
I don't want to give the end away, but that's so it's a lovely production company called Coming Up Roses, and that was great because they found me, and again this is the other thing, I'm going to loop it back to like staying in the game, but you know I'd love to do more TV, but again it's really hard to get jobs, and it's got to be timing the right place, and you know the whole TV industry at the moment is talking about how hard it is to get things commissioned. Anyway, so I redid my website over COVID actually, because at one time I got to stop and really think, what do I need to, how can I sort my life out, you know? So my website was one of those things, and I hated doing my website. I had this amazing woman, thank goodness, doing it for me, but you know, going through all the sections, who am I? But of course, having an online presence now is so important because people like to do a little bit of light stalking, don't they? Just like,
I love an online
stalk, you know.
Yeah.
And Instagram's fine, but a website, like it's a solid piece that you can trawl through and go, what do I think about this person? Anyway, so I set up my website and I put down all these things I'd done, and this production company were looking for a chef writer who had judging experience, and of course I judge for the Great Taste Awards. I am a chef, I'm a writer, and I was there, so they found me, which was really exciting. The first one we did was Wetherspoons versus Toby Carvery, which is best. There's obviously a theme to their shows, and it was brilliant because I think the 2 days before I was filming, I was somewhere really glamorous. It was I don't know if I was like in New York or just anyway somewhere very sparkly, and then the next day I was in, I don't know, like South Croydon or something. We did this tasting session of Wetherspoons versus Toby Carvery in this kind of setup, and then they took me out to do the drink section, and they wanted me to have like a pint of beer and then a sex on the beach cocktail, and they just thought it was hilarious, me going, and now I'm going to have my sex on the beach. But what was funny is when we were filming it, I think it was the Toby Carvery location, we were by a main road. I was next to, they wanted to film outside because we didn't have permission to film inside, so I was sat on this trestle table next to an overflowing bin. The rain had just started to come down, and of course, like when you film outside, people are interested, so I had all the locals kind of like going, oh hello, you know, smoking, what are you up to? And I was thinking, wow, this isn't New York, is it? No. But the show was great, and I was actually really quite pleasantly surprised by some of the food items. Toby Carvery do these extraordinary Yorkshire puddings as part of their roast, but they also like to put them for breakfast, lunch, afternoon tea, and in their cocktails. They do really. But
wow.
They do this lunch dish, and it was this huge Yorkshire pudding with macaroni cheese on top, and you can get it with chips. I'm like, that is triple carbs. I mean, who is going to go there? Wow. But anyway, and talking...
Someone with a hangover.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it'd be amazing if you had a hangover. But I had to like wrap up this Yorkshire pudding with the macaroni cheese and take a bite, and it was like the most kind of car crash of a food scene you could watch. So I did that, and then we did the Christmas show, Aldi versus M&S, who does Christmas better. But what's interesting, I mean, because obviously, you know, shoppers now, we are so much more conscious of like, what do things cost, where's great value, and we shop around. I mean, you know, as a private chef, like, because I'm always in these different places, like I never, often Aldi, to be honest, has saved the day, because I go in there, they've got loads of fresh, I mean, when I'm over in Southern Ireland, it's actually one of the great places to go, because they will often have the best fresh herb selection. They do lots of, well, there they do kind of more Irish meat and stuff, but you know, here there is a lot of British meat, British veg, and even though it's kind of a discount store, so obviously it's not as high classy, well not classy, but it's not as you wouldn't always expect quality that you would expect in M&S. Like you expect quality. Aldi's come out with some absolute crackers. Like they know how to do Christmas in particular. And so, Easter you'll just have to watch.
Well, I will.
We'll go and research that.
Are you still a vegetarian?
No, I was never a vegetarian.
Oh, you weren't a vegetarian.
So my parents became vegetarian when my sister was born, so I was 4.5. So I'd already had the taste for bacon.
Yeah.
And I don't think you ever recover from that.
There's no going back.
No, but my dad, so they wouldn't cook meat for me, but I was allowed it. So if I went to my nana and granddad's house, I was allowed a roast or a bacon sandwich. But my dad used to, sometimes he'd cook me like pasta and bacon in the microwave because it was the 80s. and that was it. So I was weirded out. And then I moved here and I lived with, I moved here to get married. But I was a good girl, so I didn't move in with that person. So I lived with someone else before I got married.
Right.
I know, it's very traditional. But she was an amazing cook, and then she was like showing me all these tips. She would cook really well, and then I remember not being able to like touch chicken with skin on it and things like that. It would really freak me out because I'd only really had it cooked for me, but I hadn't been part of it. And then I went to River Cottage.
Oh.
And I was writing for something actually, and actually that person told me I couldn't write.
Oh,
I really loved that article and I thought it was great. And I'd started it with a Pride and Prejudice quote and he was like, "What's this?" Cross that out, and I was like,
it's so painful, isn't it, being edited?
really hurt
I'd
my
like to think
feelings.
I'm not precious, but
I am very. Anyway, this was like, so we had to go and do an experience. Basically, it was kind of, you had to, so we did a bit of foraging and then it was basically, there's a good phrase for this, but I can't think what it is. But we had to then do the fish situation.
there's a fish situation.
You know, where with the bones, where you get the bones out of a fish. Can't remember what that's called. We had
Deboning?
probably, that sounds right. And then we had to do a rabbit,
Oh wow.
and a wood pigeon. And so we had to skin them and chop them up and stuff. So that, for me, cured my fear of things that were once alive and now are dead and have skin on. So that was great. I hated it. And I did the whole thing like this. But it was really good in some ways because then I could do chicken with
I think
skin
that's
after
brilliant,
that.
and hats off to you for going through it because it is this really, because things like wood pigeon, did you get to eat the wood pigeon?
Yeah.
And do you remember what you thought?
I liked the wood pigeon.
Yeah.
I didn't like the rabbit.
Okay. I mean, rabbit's quite bland, really, as a flavour, so it's all about the sauce. You want a saucy
And I wasn't
rabbit.
a fan of fish at the time. Over lockdown, I taught myself to like fish and seafood. I know. I taught myself to do it.
Yeah.
But I didn't particularly like, but it was covered in garlic, so anything covered in garlic is great, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, well, that was a big... and there were lots of people there, actually, who had gone to face a fear
Right.
of like plucking or like skinning things. That they were mostly people who'd been freaked out by it in the past.
Yeah.
And so it was like therapy. It was really odd. I didn't expect it to be like that. But I don't think that's what he wanted the article to be about. So I kind of wrote about it from that point of view.
But I think that's fascinating because I've actually, and you've just changed my mind on something quite big. I'm having an epiphany. But because I think with game, what slightly worries me is that it is always, and this is the rabbit with its fur on, and this is the pheasant with, and like we don't do that with beef, with chicken, and what we really want is more people eating venison, pheasant, so I don't see why we need to present it in such a way. But you've just said something huge, that actually for you and other people in your class, it was this total immersive journey that you changed by the end of because you were no longer afraid of touching chicken in a plastic wrap. Which is extraordinary.
Yeah, it was really, and it was great, and the food was nice. But it was, and we made pudding as well, which I'm a fan of pudding.
Yes.
But
Wood pigeon's one of those ones that always, I think every time I eat it, like, why do I not eat more of this? Because it is so. Well, pigeons are interesting. Well, wood pigeons are interesting because their flavour they get from all this amazing foraging they do. So they're eating the berries, they're eating the farmers' crops, and they're so they've got this incredibly kind of interesting flavour profile. Yeah. And again, very nutrient dense meat, so super healthy. I really love mine. I do this bacon and lentil dish with just a simple pan fried pigeon breast on top, and that's probably one of my favourite ways to eat it. Just got nice mustardy, herby lentils with a bit of aromatic pigeon on top.
And it is learning how to cook them and what to put.
It's generational, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, growing up with my parents and my grandparents, obviously we had the two generations, and that was a huge amount of knowledge. And my grandparents were young, obviously during the Second World War, but they understood what that meant and what that meant for food rationing. And my grandfather came from a farming side, so again, just that appreciation and respect for food. And it does, some of it does just come down to respect for your basic produce.
Yes.
Do you have, as like a chef, do you get into like a creative, that kind of creative flow bit where I was thinking earlier when you were talking about being a private chef and people being there, and does that kind of, two questions. One, do you get into that kind of flow? Because often, like, if we're rehearsing, we kind of hit a point where we're just kind of creating and it's cool and it's almost like on a different level of your brain.
Yeah.
But if someone came along and like started talking to us during that, well, they often do actually, because there's the dog and the children in the bit. But when you get interrupted, and that's quite irritating. How do you, if you do get into that flow, how does that kind of affect when you're cooking like right with the people you're cooking for?
I think when I say I'm doing a dinner party, they are such intense days because it's really probably just one day's work, but I have to do this huge shop, arrive probably at a new kitchen, maybe a new client, find out where everything is in the kitchen, the equipment, does it work or does it not work? I have no idea, and I won't find out until I put something in the oven. And then I'm faced with this huge jobs list that's kind of overwhelming and just looks impossible, and then obviously you're there to make sure you're fitting around their schedule. It's not like a restaurant booking where it's like, well, you come at 7:30 and then we'll feed you when we're kind of ready. It's like, I am in your domain, so I have to like fit around you. So it can be quite overwhelming, and you do just then, this is where the restaurant experience comes in, like you write your job list. And now, having had the experience of going into lots of different people's kitchens, like I don't feel, when I first started like opening up people's cupboards, I just felt like I was some sort of burglar. Ooh, should I open this or not?
I love going through
but it's weird
cupboards.
when you think, but you say that, but when you're actually going to some big intimidating house, you actually do, well, initially I just felt quite weird at doing it. Now I'm much more confident, which also hopefully puts my clients at ease as well, because you have to own the kitchen, you have to own your space. So when you're rehearsing, I'm sure like you own that moment because it is your moment, you are working. So I love people coming to chat to me in the kitchen though. Like I really don't like that separation. So I'm much happier if people do want to come and chat. And you can, obviously I look busy, so I think most people kind of get the hint. Once actually I had a client, I was working for a week and various people were coming in and out, staying a few nights. I didn't have a guest list, and since this moment I've learned to always ask for a guest list. Anyway, so I'd done my big shop, I'd arrived at this new location. The actual client hadn't arrived yet, but this guest had, but the guest didn't tell me who they were. And I was just like busy going to the kitchen, and he was just kind of standing there in his very smart tweed jacket and blue cashmere top and big gold signet ring, and chatting away, and it was kind of in my way. And I think he kind of casually asked, "Oh, can I help at all?" I was like, maybe the only way I can get you to like, just so I can get on with my big job list, is like to give you a job. So like, can you peel these spuds? Anyway, so I give this guy this big kind of bag of spuds to peel, and I don't think he had ever peeled them before. Anyway, it turns out he was an earl. So I thought maybe I shouldn't give the earl the spuds to peel in future. Everyone thought it was quite funny. But
He probably loved it.
He probably loved it. I mean, he's a terrible spud peeler.
How does this work?
Clearly they don't teach these things at Eton.
Well, there's quite a few people who don't know how to peel potatoes.
That's true. Are you a Y-shaped peeler or one of those stick peeler? What's your preference? I feel very strongly about this.
Okay, I often just use a knife.
Oh wow!
Use a knife.
Italian nonnas. No, that's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was working in Sardinia, and what surprised me is that everything was very low. So the surfaces around the outside were very low. The middle of the kitchen table was very low. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm gonna get backache by the end of the week. But the kitchen hadn't been changed pretty much since the 70s. And then what the hosts were telling me is that actually, because Nonna would just sit at the table, so grandma, peeling with a knife. They didn't have any chopping boards or whatever, like they would stand or sit and peel. And actually it turned out to be one of my favourite kitchens ever to work in, because it was actually designed to be cooked in. There's so many kitchens now that look beautiful, but actually, my worst nightmare is when I go into a sparkling swanky kitchen and it's a white marble surface, because do you know what white marble is good for? statues that you don't touch. Do you know what it's not good for?
Beetroot.
Beetroot, oil, wine, vinegar, coffee, tea, all these things that are in the kitchen constantly.
No.
And you're just like, I can't do anything here.
That's like, don't a lot of Americans just have like lovely kitchens and they just eat out?
Yeah.
Cook in them, and maybe it's like that.
Yeah, terrifying.
I saw on your website, I was stalking you this morning.
Love it.
Yeah. But on one of your entries, you were talking about you were off to cook for one of the Jewish festivals, Rosh
Hashanah.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, like, do you get cooked? Do you get cooked? Do you get
No, apparently that is a term. I don't know if your kids ever use it, but
cooked?
I'm cooked or cooked. And my lovely niece and nephew, George and Julia, were telling me about this. It means, and it depends how you use it. Either means you're amazing or it means you're done for. And it's like, I think it's a great expression. I'm cooked or you're cooked.
Do you get baked?
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's all right. I was just thinking about like cooking for different cultures and stuff. Is that? Do you ever get like thrown into that? Do you like researching that stuff? Because I did a bit of cooking for different Jewish festivals for a bit, not catering, just for we were kind of. Cut this bit out. My ex-husband like thought he was Jewish for a while, so we went down this whole thing. And then I was playing the part of a good wife. So not the good wives do.
The good wife.
No.
The good wife.
Please tell me you sang Fiddler on the Roof a lot.
I still would like to do that. Yeah. But I know all the blessings and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, I did enjoy like the kind of the food and like kind of diving into like a whole different culture because it's so creative and it's so symbolic. That's what I like.
So I have, and I think this is probably because a lot of people say, "Oh, what's your favourite thing to cook?" And I realise that for me, like I really don't want to have a favourite thing. It is about the variety. So when you work in a restaurant, you are very much constrained by the brand, by the concept, by the nationality, the cuisine that they want to eat. So when I worked at the River Cafe, a Michelin-starred restaurant, where Jamie Oliver worked, they were Italian. So everything we produced in that kitchen, even the staff meals, were Italian. But I worked at Morrow, which is a Spanish Middle Eastern restaurant. Again, everything on the menu was Spanish and Middle Eastern, which was very exciting. Lots of herbs and spices and flavours. But that was that. Whereas as a private chef, constantly going to different countries, cooking for different people, cooking for different religions, creatively you're suddenly continuously being challenged and teased and really putting in, so I'll go to the market. I mean, you say I'm in Singapore, you go to the market and I won't know probably what 50% of the produce is. I won't know the fish, I won't know the herbs, but I mean, it looks pretty cool and I'll have a go with it. I've got quite a few Jewish clients, and so I've had to learn how to cook kosher, and it can be quite complicated to begin with because if you're kosher, they're very strict about not mixing or eating meat and dairy within a certain 6-hour time frame. So most kitchens, you'll either have two kitchens if they're super strict, or they'll be divided into two where you'll have one set of crockery, plates, knives, boards that will be just for if you're going to cook dairy, and another one so if you're going to cook meat. And that is a bit like a brain tease almost. It's like, right, so if I've got this for this course, I can only weave in this, but the dessert has to be dairy free or whatever it's going to be. And interesting as well what kind of fish and stuff they can't eat because obviously no shellfish, but also I think it was things like hake and stuff, but couldn't eat. Was it hake? Yeah. But I do particularly enjoy, when I think my first Jewish client, like I quite like getting involved in laying the tables and things, and I'd got to that stage where I was fairly bold then, so I'd be happily going into people's cupboards, but I remember getting out all this symbolic stuff and putting it on the table like, oh no, we can't use that. Off you go, Philippa, we'll do the table. Thank God I didn't light the candles or something like that. But no, I love all that. I mean, I'm not particularly religious myself, but I do again really like the symbolism of food.
Yeah, it's clever, isn't it?
And when things are so traditional though within a culture as well, that must be quite, I don't know, is it overwhelming to go in and know that you need to sort of get it right, or now with the confidence?
I mean, I think particularly one of the big things for your is it the Shabbats on the Friday nights where often you'll have a chicken matzah ball soup, so a dumpling chicken soup, and often like the mother or the grandmother would have been making it. So to try and make as good as chicken soup as a grandmother, I mean that is pretty nerve-wracking. And again, it's like building up trust with your clients because you might start with And I do this, I mean, you know, so when I first have a new client, I'll do what they ask, and then once they trust me a bit more, I'll do a bit more of what I think they should have, and maybe just stretch their kind of, their boundaries a bit more, because it's good for them as well to be introduced to new food. And I think, you know, they don't always realise, oh, there is alternative ways of doing this. But you do have to be very careful with particularly religious things, that you're not kind of breaking 1,000-year-old tradition or something.
So what we always ask people as we kind of round things up is like looking back to your younger self, maybe you on the farm or whatever point in your life, what point in your life would you like to go back to, and what advice would you kind of give that younger you?
I think,
and let's throw that one on you.
Yeah. I mean, partly I think when I was struggling at school a lot before I was sort of diagnosed with dyslexia, I remember feeling incredibly frustrated because I knew I was working incredibly hard and the results weren't reflecting that, and my teachers were certainly, you know, giving me a really hard time. And I remember feeling really angry, and because you don't understand, and there was that lack of communication and understanding. So, I mean, maybe could have, it would be nice to. I'm lucky, you know, I have a very supportive family, but you know, that was certainly a really challenging time. I don't know though, really, because I think all these events, like, you have to have the challenges, because you know, if you're not challenged, well, when you are faced with challenges, it builds resilience. You learn to persevere. You find out more about yourself than if everything is smooth sailing. So actually, I think it's really good to come across some bumps in the road, and maybe just understanding that you know, because if everything is plain sailing, when you suddenly do have a hiccup, maybe you just haven't built up that inner strength to deal with it. So I wouldn't change anything, because I think every single, you know, so learn to, maybe what I would say is learn to celebrate the wins as you go along, even if they're not big wins, because you want to feel that kind of positivity within yourself. But you know, embrace all these challenges, because ultimately, you know, you'll probably find out that you're capable more than you ever believed that you were. So embrace the challenge.
Lovely. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for coming and being a guest on our podcast. It's really great to have
you. For the muffins, because I know it's one now.
Lovely. Thank you so much for having me. It's really delighted to be invited onto this.
You're welcome. Well, we hope you enjoyed that chat. We really had, it was so informative, and the muffins were delicious.
We did really love the muffins. No, we really enjoyed just sitting there listening to all of her amazing experiences and gems of knowledge. And
it was really interesting to hear how she went from kind of almost being country bumpkin to like this international superstar chef. It's really exciting. And the whole work ethos of keeping going and staying in the race, we thought was really inspiring.
You've got to work hard to get where you want to go, haven't you?
Like all those rich people out there. What did you say? They're just busy all the time. So there must be some money coming our way if that's the case.
Absolutely.
So whatever you're working on this week, if it's a creative project, if it's something you've been meaning to get done, or if it's something you've been working at for a while, don't give up hope. Stay in the game and just do it anyway.